In a move that has sent shockwaves across the international community, U.S. President Donald Trump has unveiled a controversial plan for the Gaza Strip. The proposal, which calls for the resettlement of millions of Palestinians in neighboring countries, has ignited fierce debate and raised profound questions about the future of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trump's vision, outlined in a series of recent interviews and public statements, represents a radical departure from decades of U.S. policy in the region. At the heart of the plan lies a simple yet deeply contentious premise: the idea that Palestinians in Gaza should be given the opportunity to rebuild their lives elsewhere, in beautiful communities funded by the United States. These communities, according to Trump, would offer a brighter future than the poverty and hardship that have plagued Gaza for generations. The plan, however, comes with a significant caveat: Palestinians who choose to relocate would relinquish any right of return to their ancestral lands. Trump's proposal has been met with a mixture of skepticism and outright condemnation. Critics argue that it amounts to a thinly veiled attempt to permanently displace the Palestinian population and extinguish their claims to statehood. The plan's emphasis on resettlement, they contend, ignores the root causes of the conflict and fails to address the Palestinians' legitimate aspirations for self-determination. The Trump administration, for its part, insists that the plan is motivated by a genuine desire to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people. They point to the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, ravaged by years of conflict and economic blockade, as evidence that the status quo is simply untenable. The international response to Trump's Gaza plan has been swift and overwhelmingly negative. World leaders, human rights groups, and legal experts have lined up to denounce the proposal, warning of its potentially disastrous consequences. The plan, they argue, violates fundamental principles of international law and sets a dangerous precedent for the forcible displacement of populations. Palestinian leaders have reacted with fury, accusing Trump of trying to liquidate their cause and strip them of their homeland. "Palestine is not for sale," declared a spokesperson for the Palestinian Authority, echoing the sentiments of many Palestinians who view the plan as a betrayal of their rights. Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza, has also condemned the proposal, calling it absurd and doomed to fail. The United Nations too has voiced its opposition to the plan. UN officials have warned that the forced displacement of Palestinians would constitute a grave breach of international law, potentially amounting to a war crime. "The right of return is non-negotiable," stressed a UN spokesperson, emphasizing the agency's commitment to upholding the rights of Palestinian refugees. Opposition to the plan has not been limited to the Middle East. European leaders, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, have condemned the proposal as a scandal and a violation of international law. The Arab League has also expressed its outrage at the plan, calling it a recipe for more conflict and instability. At the heart of the debate over Trump's Gaza plan lies a fundamental question of international law. Is it legal to forcibly displace a population from its homeland, even if it is done in the name of peace or humanitarianism? The answer, according to legal experts, is an unequivocal no. The Fourth Geneva Convention explicitly prohibits the forced displacement of civilians during times of war. The ICC recognizes forced displacement as a crime against humanity. The Trump administration has yet to provide a detailed legal justification for its plan. Proponents argue it is based on the voluntary consent of the Palestinian people. Critics argue the plan is inherently coercive, forcing Palestinians to choose between desperate conditions or relocation. To fully grasp the complexities of the current situation in Gaza, it is essential to understand the historical context that has shaped the lives of its people. For decades, the Palestinians of Gaza have endured a cycle of displacement, dispossession, and conflict, their fate intertwined with the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The story of Gaza's current predicament can be traced back to the events of 1948, when the State of Israel was established. During the war that followed Israel's declaration of independence, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes in what became Israel. Many of these refugees sought refuge in neighboring countries, including the Gaza Strip, which came under Egyptian control. The 1967 Six-Day War marked another turning point in Gaza's history. Israel captured the Gaza Strip from Egypt, along with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The arrival of Israeli settlers and the imposition of military rule transformed the lives of Palestinians in Gaza, who found themselves living under occupation. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, raised hopes for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, the peace process ultimately faltered, and Gaza remained mired in violence and instability. In 2005, Israel withdrew its settlers and troops from Gaza. However, it continued to control the territory's borders, airspace, and coastal waters, effectively maintaining a blockade that has crippled Gaza's economy. Today, Gaza is home to over 2 million Palestinians, many of whom are descendants of refugees from the 1948 war. The Strip is one of the most densely populated areas in the world, and its people endure dire living